Clubhouse thing?
Dude, that was sick.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I was kind of popping in and out because I had another thing with some other students. But Wajahat, that dude is brilliant. I was like,
Wait,
God
which
damn.
dude is brilliant?
Well, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but
Wajahat.
Yeah, Wajahat Ali, yeah. Mofo. I mean, everybody was awesome.
Bro,
I was just sitting there listening in the presence of greatness. I was like, man, this is dope. Very, very cool.
Dude, there were people there in New York, DC, LA, Egypt. There were a whole lot of, there's a lot of Texas, there was some Florida, it was good, man.
There was a lot of people.
And you know, Kimberly Whitesmith, man, she's the dean at Laverne. She's a former Chapman person. Oh very man, cool. She's very one of the most brilliant people I know. Samira Drews came on. It was great, dude. It was really great. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what to expect, but it was so fun, and it's just awesome, man. What awesome people to come on and just chat.
Yeah, it's a cool platform too. I've never used that app before.
I haven't either.
That's why I was on there. I didn't know how to mute my mic and shit.
I was like, yo, Julian, mute your mic, dog. You just flushed the toilet. No, I'm just kidding. You didn't. Mm. All right, G. So you had a good week?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Another week in paradise, man. Can't complain.
Good for you, man. All right, my brother. Let's hit it. The top 10 stories of the week. Let's start off with the Washington Post. Actually, let's not. Can we just continue the thread from last class so that everybody's kind of remember? We started the conversation about human rights law and terrorism in both classes by saying that when the social contract no longer makes sense to a group of people in society, they will choose to rage against the machine. And I showed you the video from Capitol Hill and how the people from Capitol Hill are literally quoting NWA. They're literally quoting hip hop culture. The Zach De La Rocha, Tom Morello then raged, did the song again. It's one thread all over the world. That thread is there are those who benefit from the machine, the system as it exists, the ethos of power, and there are those who choose to rage against the machine. And among those who are raging, there will be tribes. Those tribes are based on identity, they're based on economic interest, they're based on what have you. And what we must always remember when we're studying these macro political, geopolitical issues, the easiest thing that can happen is you forget that these are human beings. We're talking about human beings who are choosing to join terrorist organizations, human beings who are killing other human beings pursuant to the idea of justice. Like we obliterated Iraq pursuant to the idea that we were bringing freedom. We are all humans. And I think sometimes we forget that. And I was glad that topic came up last night on Clubhouse. We should say, for those who'd like to join, we're on Clubhouse on Thursday, 6 p.m. is when we did it. Mm-hmm. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, 1 hour of just like a whole bunch of really awesome people just having a cup of coffee with each other. It was really brilliant. All right, should we hit it?
Sure.
Good.
Let's run it.
Why don't you read off the first
Speed round. All right, here we go. Washington Post. 2 officers who helped fight the Capitol mob died by suicide. Many more are hurting. This is by Peter Herman.
So important to remember. One of the greatest phenomena of our time is the PTSD and the significant emotional and psychological challenges of engaging in warfare, of engaging in combat, of having a job that's about guns and controlling other human beings, etc. These humans who are in these roles, that's why we call it service to the nation. That's why we call it service to community, because it comes with significant costs to oneself. That's why it's called service. Because it includes within it an assumption. I'm talking to a former firefighter in training here, someone that comes from a family of firefighters, right, Julian? Am I making that?
Yeah.
That's why it's called service, because you give up some of yourself, you give up some of your well-being for the sake of the overall good. And we have to remember that a police officer died, a woman died, three officers committed suicide. We really need to understand the human toll of conflict. Now, imagine being a 16-year-old in Iraq, in Syria. Imagine being in a refugee camp in Lebanon, in Jordan. Imagine being on the bad end of a Boko Haram push through your village and being a 12-year-old girl. Good. That's how we need to think about these issues. Good. So let's always remember that there's a lot of personal sacrifice in the process of making news and making politics. Let's hit the next one.
All
Or
right.
actually, did you want to say something on that, Julian? Because
Well,
you don't have to.
yeah, I mean, no, man. Moment of silence for these three officers. Really. I mean, service is something that you kind of feel called to. So, yeah, thoughts go out to the family members and yeah.
Respect.
Next one. Wall
Let's
Street
do it.
Journals.
The
Wall Street
Wall
Journal.
Street Journal. Okay, can I just say one thing? One of the things that you will miss after you are no longer a student is being able to read all of the news around the world for very little money. Your student
True.
ID and your student email account get you access to things that cost $5 a day in order to be able to read, or things that cost $12 a week in order to be able to read. So the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Economist, the Financial, these are all things available to you at significantly discounted rates because you're a student. Sorry. Hit me.
Sorry. Yeah, the Wall Street Journal, $24 for a year for students. So with your Chapman email. Pretty rad, right?
Most people,
So,
isn't that like one round of sushi for some of the homies?
I spend like $60 on sushi.
Get out of here, man.
All right, so Wall Street Journal, we have China orders the BBC off the air in its territory. The BBC.
So let's remember Hong Kong for 100 years had independence in a brokered agreement between the British Empire and China. After those 100 years, it reverts back to the authority of China. Many people thought that the West would intervene. Many people thought that there would be something, but of course we had at that time the great Trump administration. And so Hong Kong is now, through all of its protest period, through its ability to have a free environment, etc., and it is now beginning to come again under the power of the Chinese government. And you'll remember that in all of our classes, we say one of the first things that you do as a totalitarian authority when there is unrest as it relates to people's accepting of your authority is you cut off social media. You literally cut the internet. No internet. Good. Now, if you really want to push it, you cut CNN or you cut BBC. Or you cut people's ability to understand how the world sees their reality. Because if they're like, yo, this is wrong, then that amps your activism. It amps the people that are coming out to the streets. And no, I'm going to cut you off from your ability to communicate with the rest of the world, from your ability to give information out. One of the people that will have this semester is the person that started the online social media effort to get the truth in Syria out to the world while the war was happening. So this is an excellent example of how authority acts in moments of crisis. They cut you off from access to information. Now, you don't have to be in a totalitarian society to understand the significance of your access to this information. For some people, this is life and death. Woohoo! Biden orders sanctions against Myanmar after military coup in the Associated Press. Remember, there was a military coup. Let's take a whole bunch of steps back. The government of Myanmar, led by Aung San Suu Kyi, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, I don't think I am, is charged with genocide before the International Court of Justice. International Court of Justice, of course, one of the permanent courts of international law. Unlike, for example, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, those are ad hoc courts, have full authority. They dissolve once the issue is resolved. No, this is a permanent court. And last semester, if you were in any of my classes, we had the lawyer who brought the case against Aung San Suu Kyi for genocide of the Rohingya Muslims in Burma on behalf of the Gambia, because nobody else gives a shit enough to take these people to an international court. Not Saudi Arabia, not Turkey, not all these countries that claim to be the countries that stand for Islam. No, the Gambia is who he was able to convince to go to the International Court of Justice. Who is Aung San Suu Kyi? Former Nobel Peace Prize winner. Under house arrest for decades by the same military government that she started to work with, a military that was founded by her father. And now that military government, because she won a little bit too much in recent elections, has decided to overthrow her government, and the military is now back in power. Good. And so in a responsible world where the American government is leading, we take actions. One of those actions is sanctions against Myanmar. Myanmar, Burma is the same country. Okay, remember again, sanctions come with costs. And so these decisions have to be balanced. Should we go to the next one?
Yep, speed round.
Let's do it.
France 24. U.S. to revoke terror designation for Yemen's Houthi rebels.
Very good. Remember that we said that part of the rebalancing of the relationship with Saudi Arabia and the relationship with the United Arab Emirates is figuring out a solution to the humanitarian catastrophe that was created in Yemen. One of the things that Pompeo did on the way out was designate the Houthi rebels as a terrorist organization. I'm not here to tell you that they're not a terrorist organization. I'm here to tell you that I agree with the Biden administration that in some cases, when you put sanctions on political players, you're actually punishing the people. You're actually punishing the people who fall under their authorities. And so Mr. Blinken, my former boss, on behalf of the president, decided to remove the same. It doesn't mean that we're for Houthi rebels. It doesn't mean that we're going to bomb Saudi Arabia tomorrow. It doesn't mean that we love Iran. It simply means that the interest of the people in this situation supersedes the interests of what Saudi Arabia wants the United States to allow it to do. You see, we are using our influence in a regional dynamic in order to try to help bring justice for those who are the weakest in the situation. All right, let's hit it.
Amnesty International, Saudi Arabia.
Wait, you're telling me Amnesty International has a website? Like Human Rights Watch has a website? Like you could just go to these websites and you can find out how people are being screwed over in the world? It's mind-blowing, man.
Unbelievable, right? Saudi Arabia, release of women's rights defender, will not try to pronounce her name, long overdue.
Lujain al-Hathlul. Sorry, I think it's a heh, not a ha. Al-Hathlul. Long overdue. Here, why don't you hit us a few of these sentences, man?
Responding to the news that the Saudi Arabian human rights defender Lujain was released from prison earlier today, Amnesty International's deputy director for the Middle East and North Africa, Lynn, said Lujain's release after a harrowing ordeal in prison in Saudi Arabia, lasting nearly 3 years, is an incredible relief, but long overdue.
Okay, in Saudi Arabia, there was a law since its founding that is based on a specific interpretation of Islamic law that says that a woman does not have agency in and of herself to conduct affairs in the public square. What does that mean? She cannot drive. She cannot open her own bank account. She cannot sign a contract for a business. She cannot exit the country without the approval of a male guardian. When you're a kid, that male guardian is your dad. When you get married, that male guardian becomes your husband. You can't take a trip without your husband's approval written to the government. You can't open a business without your husband's approval written to the government. You can't do anything on your own. You have no individual agency as a person. Good. So there are a bunch of Saudi women that are like, yo, enough of this. Like, let's get into the modern world. And here I'm pointing to this for one specific lesson here. The lesson is, the question is not whether the authoritarian is going to give you some freedoms. So the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has now granted women the right to drive. And as he granted women the right to drive, on the same day, he arrested all women activists that were calling for the right of women to drive. You see what I'm saying? He's letting women drive, and he also arrests all of the activists that are fighting for a woman's right to drive. Why? Why would you jail the people that fought for what you're now granting? Why would you do that? Julian, what do you think? He's like, bro, we didn't say we were going to do this, bro.
No comment. No
because
comment right now.
because you want the people to know that their freedoms come from your grace. They do not come from their efforts. Your freedoms come from my kindness to dispense it to you. It doesn't come from you making a lot of problems and making a lot of noise and making us look bad in the international space. So these are all brilliant people, successful, who are in jails simply because they are asking for simple freedoms that the majority of their society is not against. Like if you took a poll of Saudi, they would not be against changing these laws. But changing those laws results in a changing of the balances of power. And so only power can determine when the laws should be changed. All right. So remember, it's not all substantive. No, women can't. Why can't women drive in Saudi Arabia? Because Islam says women can't. No. Women driving all over the world, bro. Why can't women drive in Saudi Arabia? Always remember, when we say critical theory, critical pedagogy, what does that mean? Critical means the critique of power. Once you see a situation, first thing you ask yourself, who's in charge here? Who's got the money? Who's got the guns? Who's got the appetite of the masses to go along with them in what they're trying to do? And then your analysis goes from there. All right, my brother, let's hit the next one.
All right, from CoinDesk. Crypto use in terrorism is a growing problem.
Okay, why don't you read this quotation from Secretary Yellen?
I see the promise of these new technologies, but I also see the reality. Cryptocurrencies have been used to launder the profits of online drug traffickers. They've been a tool to finance terrorism.
Okay, great. First thing, I just want to do a few things on this one. Number one, I don't know what CoinDesk is. I've never seen it before. I am not vouching for this source of information. Good? That doesn't mean that I don't read it. Number two, I see here there's clearly a video of the actual secretary saying what she's being quoted as saying. So that gives me some sense that it makes sense. Now, why are we pointing to this? One of the mistakes that we make often when we come into the space of trying to understand the ebb and flow of societies and nation states is we get overwhelmed with the interdisciplinary nature of what we need to know in order for us to be literate in what's going on. You're like, oh shit, man, this guy now he wants me to study cryptocurrency. This guy's crazy. Like he needs to follow. Not all knowledge that you acquire, you need to acquire pursuant to the same depth. Like, right, you're not a computer. Like, if I take one of the guitars and I play for you, it is not the totality of guitar knowledge. It's only what I have come to experience. It's not as much as my knowledge of the oud, not as much both of those as my knowledge of the world. Like every level of depth that you do to a differing degree. So I think it's really important when you see a piece like this that you stop and you think to yourself, you know what? This cryptocurrency thing, it's really, 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 really important. I know that there's a lot of discussion about it. I don't really know exactly what it is. I'm going to take little bites here and there to be able to become slightly literate in it. The first way I'm going to approach it, you see, every topic has many doors. Topic has many doors. I'm going into the topic of Bitcoin through a door I know, terrorist financing. And it looks like it's giving me another door, the link between terrorist financing and drug trafficking financing. Remember, the Office of Foreign Assets Control of the Treasury Department, it's just not worried. It's not only worried about what ISIS is doing in bank accounts, it's also worried about what Pablo Escobar, whatever, is doing in bank accounts, right? So now I'm beginning to see like the intersectionality of all. Oh yeah, oh crypto. Okay, so that means you're going around the bank, so the regulation of the bank, so nobody has to really ask you about. Okay, that's all you need to know. Remember, if you're doing cocaine in Bolivia, if you're doing opium in Afghanistan, if you're ordering a pizza to the front door, you're on these devices. You're on these devices. And how these devices work together is something that I think is really important for us to understand. And now let's go to KTLA channel 5.
Prime time,
baby. That's that local news.
Yeah, mother of shooter in San Bernardino terrorist attack. I think many of you remember this. Sentenced for shredding planning document.
You remember this dude? Him and his wife went up, shot up his like work retreat thing, and then they went back and they saw that his garage was like filled with ammo and all this crazy shit. And he and his wife, who came from I don't know some other country in order to marry him, were living with his mom. And then apparently his mom, this is now however many years later, his mom shredded a bunch of documents that were like planning documents for the attack. And she's now being held accountable by law enforcement for that shredding. Why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this to remind you, radicalization does not happen in a vacuum. Extremism does not happen in a vacuum. It happens within a specific social context. When Jacob Chansley or whatever, the QAnon shaman, was arrested, who did they interview? They interviewed his mother. We all live with humans. We all live in a context of humans. And poisonous ideas, they affect everyone. You know, one of the best ways in the early days of people joining terrorist organizations to get people to renege and leave is, what do you think is going to happen to your mom when you die? Like, what do you think is going to happen to your little, what do you think he's going to become? What do you think your dad, how do you think, like, you're killing the people you love, you're going to make them sad for the rest of their lives, et cetera, et cetera. So remember, radicalization happens in a context, it happens in a process, it affects all members of a family or a society, and its consequences are real. Okay, let's go to the next one.
All right, ABC 11, QAnon shaman. The homie with the horns.
The homie dog, that's the best.
He's saying
the horns.
He's saying sorry.
Forgive the truck. It's okay.
He's saying sorry. I made an oopsie. I didn't mean it.
Did I tell you what happened to me this week? Hopefully my wife doesn't watch this part. She might watch it. Did I tell you what happened to me this week?
No.
We were in marriage therapy because, you know, we have marriage therapy every week. Everybody should be in therapy. Everybody should be in therapy. Everyone should be in therapy. We were in marriage therapy this week, and the door knocked at like a peak moment of the exchange. And immediately I knew this is the end of my life. Why? Because it was the delivery of a guitar that I hadn't totally like discussed with Yasmin before. So imagine, bro, you're getting like a guitar delivery in the middle of marriage therapy that you didn't discuss with your wife, in the middle of a plague. You got no money. Okay. And I said some shit like, you know, the only thing worse than like,
it's for you.
And then your mistress walks in the middle of marriage therapy, and then Yasmin goes, "Well, that's exactly what happened."
It's for you, honey. We have matching guitars now.
What do you mean?
That's what you should have told her.
Yeah,
it's for you. I got it for you.
Bro, what are you talking about, bro? It's the Carlos Santana PRS, homie. What you talking about?
Yeah.
Look at these bird inlays. Look at this. Look at this.
You can
I
do
only
some.
have entry-level guitars. I don't have any expensive guitars. Look, you see that nice thick, like neck. Oh, get
The
out of here.
fretboard, I like the fretboard.
Yeah, dog, that's the PRS fretboard. They're all
very, very
different,
nice
different birds. Actually,
birds.
the strap is a PRS strap with the same birds, but yeah, Paul Reed Smith's mom was a birder. She was the last one is an owl on a branch. Everyone has like a story. There's like a falcon, a sparrow.
Super spiritual. I dig it.
Oh man, the Carlos Santana. I wanted this one. There's a single cut one in Egyptian gold.
God damn.
And I was like, damn, Egyptian gold, dog. You know what I'm saying? But
Some
no, we
fly
got no
shit.
single cuts here. We're good. Alhamdulillah. I'm so thankful. I'm so blessed. And of course, she was totally cool with it. And she came in even last night and was just like, this sounds so great. Like, what's the difference between all the guitars? We talked about the pickups. And the QAnon shaman apologized. He's apologizing. This guy is apologizing. I'm so sorry. He regrets storming the building. He apologizes for causing fear in others and expressed disappointment in President Donald Trump. Good. Let's go to the next story, Doug.
Yeah, what else is there to say about that fool? Next story and the last story. Washington Post.
No, wait. Before that one, did you get the one where I gave you the Wikipedia of the ISIS magazine?
Ah, yes, Dabik.
Yeah, man.
Dabik magazine.
Really important. Yes, Dabik was an online magazine used by the Islamic State in Iraq and Levant, which we used to call it ISIL before we called it ISIS, same shit. And recruitment. It was first published July 2014 in a number of different languages. So this was a magazine that was published regularly. I used to do the analysis. My team did the analysis within the US government on what it meant and how it was used as marketing material, etc. Remember, Dabak later became a Rumiyya because the Dabak kind of narrative fell apart when Dabak got sacked by Allied forces. But this is important. Why? You're not the only person in the world that has a podcast. You're not the only person in the world that's got a magazine. You're not the only person in the world that plays music, right? We need to understand that there is primary source material by terrorist organizations that speak about their intentions. Same with white supremacy. Being literate in that material gives you a good insight into how recruitment is possible. What are the arguments that are being made? How are we getting people onto the recruitment train or the radicalization train? All right, let's hit the last one, Don.
All right, last one. Chick Corea, versatile pianist who made jazz eclectic and electric, dies at 79.
He helped develop the electronic fusion style of music with Miles Davis, and later in the 1970s, group returned to Forever while remaining true to the classic jazz piano repertoire. Mr. Correa had been a prolific and dynamic force in music, building on his early training in classical, Latin jazz, and traditional jazz to build an original style that freely crossed musical boundaries. 23 Grammys, worked with Stan Getz. That's all you got to say. So remember, diplomacy, nation state building, there's a lunch, there's a breakfast, there's a dinner, there's an elevator ride or two, there's a walking up the stairs or two, and there's music, there's culture, there's beauty. When you study terrorism and war, make sure you're studying it within the totality of its cultural reality. Make sure that you are someone who can converse about the things that touch the hearts and minds of people. Rick Beato had an amazing video on his YouTube channel about Chick Corea. But let us end this week by saying that the heavens have gained a jazz great, and the party up there. You know, I got a lot of loved ones up there that are getting ready to go to the party tonight at the club in heaven. So God bless you, Chick Corea. Thank you for all the beauty that you offered us. And that's it. What
Rest
you got?
in peace.
Rest, amen. J-Rod.
Yes, sir.
Any parting thoughts? Bro, we worked hard this week. I appreciate you so much, dog. Like, really, it's just one of the, I sent this to the peeps at Chapman, they like it.
Hell yeah. Very good. Very good.
All right, my dude. Much love. Stay strong. Stay healthy. Work hard through the weekend. I'll see you next week.
Sounds good then.
Peace out.